Stay ready is the mentality birthed through the trials and triumphs of life as an NFL long snapper. Join me in conversations with teammates, mentors, friends, and family who helped me realize that stay ready is so much more. A deeply rooted principle of life in all things faith, family, and football. Welcome back to another Stay Ready episode. I'm here with my really good buddy and fellow long snapper, Matt Orzech, Super Bowl champion with the LA Rams. He's here for a couple days, just flew into Nashville for some training today. We just got off the field with other snappers, Morgan Cox, Nick Moore, Zach Triner. Am I forgetting anybody?
No, that's all the snappers we have.
But, man, I wanted to have you on the pod, man, because, you know, you and I kind of go back a few years. You know, obviously we're fellow snappers. You're the first long snapper that I've had here on the Stay Ready podcast.
Let's go.
So excited for that. And, you know, really wanted you on here, but you moved away to South Carolina. You left us, man, here in Nashville. But welcome back. I know you're here for a quick little trip. But, man, it's good to see you, man. And so proud of you and the incredible season you had in LA. So let's go back a little ways. I really want to talk about, you know, your testimony, your faith, how you got into long snapping. You're also a fellow Division II long snapper like I was. So we have a lot of commonalities. We're both Mattios, you know, so just really excited to dive into your story. So, man, tell us, you know, a little bit about yourself, you know, kind of where you're from, how you kind of started to get into snapping, and maybe where was that point in your career, early in your career, where you thought, hey, like snapping is really going to be my ticket to make it to the league?
Yeah. Let's see. Born in Southern California, raised there for a while, moved to Wisconsin, came back right before, like, I really started taking sports seriously as a kid.
Yeah.
It's like middle school. So going through high school, could care less about football, but I played it out of kind of duty to being a high school boy. So I played football, loved baseball, and then ended up getting an opportunity to play Division II football at Azusa Pacific. And they also offered to play baseball as well.
Okay.
So it was like a slam dunk, stay SoCal, play football, play baseball still.
Yeah.
I ended up falling in love with football there because of the culture that the coaches put forward. They were just such strong Christian men and mentors across the board, the entire staff. It was something I'd never seen before. And just their messaging and really challenging guys to grow off the field a lot just made it such an enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
And then they were the ones that got me to give long snapping a shot too.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, depth in a D2 college, you just kind of have guys that can do it, especially back then. And so they were having troubles with one of their guys and had me just kind of come over and try it because I played baseball. And they're like, it's like pitching, but upside down through
and
your
a different
legs.
Ball. Yeah,
different ball.
It's so
but
easy, man.
It's doing the same motion over again. You throw well, like give it a shot.
Yeah. But you also played like tight end, right?
Yeah, so I went there to play tight end.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like doing that in camp, and I was, you know, learning, way too skinny still.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to see the field as a tight end anyway.
Okay.
And they had me try that out. I did okay. So like, dude, just do this for the next week and a half before our first game so we can feel good about having, you know, solid backup. And then they had me start the whole season. They told me the day before the game. And first snap was not good.
Yeah.
It was airmail over the punter's head.
Yeah.
But after that, I kind of took the pressure away too.
Sure.
But yeah, so like going through college as D2, NFL wasn't even a remote thought in my head.
Yeah.
And even going into college, I wasn't thinking about NFL. If anything, I was thinking MLB.
Yeah.
So wasn't really a thought, but we had this running back, Terrell Watson, who was massive, powerful, led all levels in rushing his senior season. He was getting NFL attention. And one of the days I kind of noticed one of the scouts, when he came to watch, before practice, he stood behind the punter and watched me snap.
Yeah.
Wrote down a few things, and then afterward just asked me what year I was. And I was like, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Right? And it just kind of opened my eyes to this whole new plane of possibilities. But really still wasn't taking it too serious until my first senior season. And they had a scout come watch me snap.
Yeah.
And then after that, I ended up tearing an MCL and having to redshirt and come back again.
Okay.
But in that time of not being able to play tight end,
Yeah.
I was really taking it serious
Sure.
and thinking about it. And then that second senior season scouts were there just to watch me snap.
Yeah.
And I started really putting some value and thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of very similar to my D2 career. I was a starting defensive end, and I was also the starting long snapper, and I was only there for 2 years. I played 2 years junior college prior to going to Western Washington, but it was somebody else's career and exposure that got me NFL exposure, because they weren't coming to a D2 campus to scout a punter, kicker, or snapper. Yeah. It was usually a receiver, or at the time, I take that back, because at the time, I got exposure because of Michael Kanan, who was an All-American punter and kicker.
Oh, okay.
So because of his talent level and he really having a draftable grade, I went and snapped to his private workout pre-NFL draft. And totally against NCAA regulations for me to be out there, because I was only at the time going into my junior year. Mm-hmm. But the scout was like, "Hey, you're pretty good. What class are you?" "Oh, I'm only a junior." "Oh, we'll come check you out in a couple of years." So kind of very similar.
Yeah.
But at the same time, really didn't take it too seriously, because you don't go Division II to go to the NFL. No one in that locker room. I mean, there's maybe a few guys sprinkled in, like your 4 years that you play there, that have the ability. But the scouts aren't knocking at the door, like coming to, pick out the best talent. It's just, maybe there's a guy that just, his stature, his speed, whatever the case may be. Maybe
late bloomers.
Late bloomer, or he was maybe he was at a big school. It was a big name and failed out, or whatever circumstance happened that he had to drop down. But it's just kind of being at the right place at the right time for you, right? I mean, it's one of those things where, coming out of high school, and you're a little bit younger than I am, but did you take advantage of like snapping camps and clinics, and did you do any of that stuff?
Not at
all self-taught?
It was all self-taught, and then for me it was like having the right voices in my ear kind of pointing me to things and affirming the talent that was there.
Yeah.
So I had an awesome special teams coordinator and strength coach in Gabe Heigard, who he was just like super intellectual about football and special teams.
Yeah.
And so he saw me snap, and he's been around an NFL workout before, and he was like, "I think he can do it."
Yeah.
So he really went to work trying to find somebody to train me up.
Yeah.
And he found a guy in Matt Wigley to help me
shout
out.
out Matt. Yeah.
Yeah. And he helped me out and just kind of refined me a little bit and gave me some simple things to think about and work on, because I was still playing tight end. So I was like, we don't have time to really only do this.
Yeah.
So that's just another voice. Guys seeing a lot of snappers telling you you're good, you have potential. And then for that second senior year, we had a guy that was a Rams analyst.
Okay.
Will Rodriguez come in. And so he's lived the NFL life, and he was kind of sprinkling that in, like, "Matty, you go after this.
Yeah.
You got a shot."
Yeah.
So it's like those little affirmations just kind of piecing together.
Yeah.
Because I was never that guy who was going to be like, "Yeah, I'm going to league."
Yeah.
Just saying that blatantly felt so wrong and like lying to yourself.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I had more guys at JUCO believe they were going to the league than I did at Division II.
Yeah.
And I would argue that the talent level probably was a lot higher at JUCO, just because you have guys from all over the place that, just can't get into school anywhere else, and JUCO's their only route. So I would argue that JUCO has a lot more talent.
Yeah.
The ceiling is a lot higher.
Some of those blue chip guys.
But like at D2, no one, like in my class, there was maybe a couple guys that had a maybe fair shot. Maybe CFL was an option for them. But yeah, you're never coached or prepped for the next level.
Yeah.
And so for me, and you can chime in on kind of your transition, not preparing for the NFL once you got that, scouts looking at you. For me, I just couldn't. I luckily had a head coach, Robin Ross, who coached with the Raiders for several years. So he kind of knew a little bit about the pre-draft process that he kind of shared with me. But outside of that guy, I didn't have anybody that I can hey, like, how do I prepare for a pro day, or who do I go get coaching from for combine training and drills and all that kind of stuff. So I really just kind of, I reached out to as many people as I could, like through Facebook and like other coaches in California and Washington, and just like I just tried to soak up and network as much as I could, and it worked out. But maybe how did you start like preparing for once your senior year was over? Hey, NFL is a legitimate opportunity for me at long snapping. What was the next step for you?
Yeah, for me, I immediately went back to Gabe Heigard, and because he had done pro days for guys, and we had a few times where we would overlap with UCLA or Hawaii, so there was a decent amount of scouts there.
Okay.
So he got and he's just a student of everything he's doing. So he really put a lot of work into understanding how a pro day operates and putting together training for me.
Yeah.
And then Will Rodriguez, being a former Rams analyst, had a lot of connections in the scouting and agency world. So he was just kind of shooting my film out to everybody he could, kind of like college recruiting to all these agents, like, hey, what do you think of this kid? Give him a shot. And I ended up getting one who's pretty good at the special teams world and this niche. And so I feel like that helped a lot in just giving me the confidence to be like, hey, these guys know it and what the pre-draft looks like. They breaking everything down to me, telling me. So I just kind of trusted them and ran with it and gave long snapping the first real full attention of my career.
Like you were all in.
That was all in. I was trying to learn as much as I could, taking it seriously. So for me, it was just kind of the right people, honestly.
Did you go to Zahner or Coles or any of those, you know, guys?
I went to Zahner and did the special teams showcase there, and that was my first time snapping around other high-level snappers. So, like, I'm still judging myself only against other D2 snappers, and so I have no idea what is good, what a real snapper even looks like.
Was that pretty eye-opening for you?
It was, And then it was really validating to be like, okay, like, I can snap with these guys.
Oh, sure,
And because I had this image in my head that they just never miss, ever, and all that stuff. So being next to it for that full weekend for the showcase, I
think also, too, like the D2 mentality as well. It's like when I was coming out, I had the scouts and the coaches, like, validating, like, my talent level. But internally, I was always fighting against... but I'm not D1. I'm not playing at UW or I'm USC or Nebraska, all these others. Because when I looked at, like, the pre-draft, like, rankings, my name was never on that list.
Me either,
You know, so I look at, like, the top 25 snappers in the country. They're all Division I guys. And so for me, I was like, okay, well, first of all, I'm not on that list, so that's pretty discouraging. You know, and... You know, but I'm also being told one thing, so it's like, you know, what do I do believe? But going to those camps, it's like now you're with scholarship D1 snappers. But I also, for me, you know, being a dual, like, positional guy, I really honed in on the fact that I was athletic and strong and could provide just like an upper edge against those guys who only snapped in college. Did you feel that, like, your athletic ability, like playing tight end, having other, you know, because you're moving a lot, you're blocking, your demand to be strong and powerful and fast is there because you're playing a positional, you're playing an actual position other than just long snapping. Do you feel like you had that edge, you know, when you saw other guys?
I think it definitely lent itself to me in that I felt really confident in my ability to work with other guys. Because when you're playing tight end, you have to work with the other linemen and the calls for blocking and knowing the route schemes and just knowing more football in general and how to work with guys next to you. So, you know, being involved in a run game blocking scheme or pass protection translated really well to being a long snapper on a punt pro. Because you're used to reading a defense, seeing what's in front of you, and having to work with the guys next to you in a scheme. And just, footwork. You're comfortable with doing a whole lot of different stuff with your body. And I think it definitely gave me a lot of confidence in that aspect.
And for me, going through my pro days, did you just do one pro day at Azusa, or did you go to several other ones?
I did just UCLA's.
UCLA,
ours got canceled.
Okay.
So we got lumped in with UCLA and Hawaii.
Which is huge, because you're going to probably get 30 teams there.
Exactly. So we had a lot of show out. But because we were the D2 guys, we were lumped at the back end. So it was like, I went straight from bench and like, your 40's in 3 minutes. I was like, dude, I can't even move. So it was crazy.
They're not going to cater to the non-UCLA guys.
Not at all.
So,
but it's fine, because it's like, I just need to be in front of them and show them, like, okay, he's actually big. He can still snap. He can run well.
Did you test well, like bench, 40?
Yeah, I tested
drill?
really well.
Yeah.
And, like, I snapped probably terrible because it was so rushed. But honestly, I was like, I just need to validate what they think they see on tape. Of, okay, he's big, he moves well.
He's got the ability
and he can
to
snap pretty well to where, like, if we bring him in as an invite, he can at least get in the building.
For sure.
And so I think that was good for me.
So again, D2, you know, we had a pro day, but I think we only had like 3 scouts show up. And again, they're like, and I don't want to disrespect the scouting department, but these are like the minions, like being sent out to, these are like the interns being sent out to these small schools. These aren't like the coordinators and the actual coaches or the high level pro, directors of scouting that are coming to a D2 pro day. So for me, I had that circumference of like, 100-mile radius.
Yeah.
So I went to San Jose State and I went to Cal Poly. So I went to those three. But in order to do so, I had to be invited by an actual scout. So it wasn't like I could just show up and they let me go. So I had my coach made some calls like, hey, I got the snapper that's legit. We need to get him into Cal Poly and San Jose State. And luckily I got in. And I remember going to San Jose State, dude, I was so nervous because, again, little Division II guy walking into a D1 setting where, like, the weight room is glamorous. The process is more like, this is just the cream of the crop. And, I'm coming from a weight room that is like, a couple platforms and like, mix and match weights, kind of like hand-me-down stuff.
Yeah.
Like, then you go into that setting, it's just like, wow, like this is what D1 is like.
Everything's got their logo on.
Yeah. And then I'm piled with the back with, the guys who aren't from San Jose State. But to that point, I trained like a linebacker all prepping for my pro day because I knew that if I had to stand out in any way, it had to be my athletic ability. And so I thrived on the bench. I thrived at the L drill, and then my 40 was pretty decent. And then when I charted against the other top snappers in the country, I was like the best in every category.
Yeah.
And then some guys didn't even do the bench, or some guys didn't even run the 40. So I'm like, what the heck? Like, I've done everything.
Yeah.
So that's where I feel like I stood out. At least like got the attention, right? And also I'm not, at the time, I remember a scout saying, how tall are you? I'm like, maybe, 6 foot, 6'1.5". Oh, well, you need to be 6'4", 250. I'm like, what the heck? So like, not only am I from D2, I'm not 6'5", I'm not 250. I'm like, I felt like the odds were completely stacked against me. So again, that was just another thing going into this whole process where I was just completely like, dude, there's no chance.
Yeah.
Or my snap was too slow.
Yeah.
So that pro day for me, sorry, I got a barking dog above us, just a crazy Overton household. But I think after I tested, that really gave me like confidence, like, all right, like I belong. Like, I belong in this pack. And so after your pro days, what was the next step for you? Did you get an agent? Did you go train somewhere specifically? You didn't get the NFL Combine invite. So were there any other things that you tried to do pre-draft to really set yourself apart?
Yeah, I ended up getting a workout I worked out with the Ravens and I worked out with the Saints, and I did the Chargers local day.
Okay.
So it was just kind of more of those things with affirmations of like, okay, people are paying attention.
Yeah.
And then my agent was saying good things. People were taking what I did pretty seriously from my Zonner tape to pro day.
Yeah.
And they're like, people are paying a little bit more attention now. Yeah. And even though like the pre-draft board, I still was nowhere near it.
Yeah.
But it's like I didn't really care too much about it.
Yeah.
So I had a few workouts and just pieces of validation stacking to where I was like, all right, I think I'm at least going to get an opportunity to be in a building this year. And like, that was kind of my goal. I was like, if I get in a building, that'd be amazing as a D2 kid.
Huge opportunity,
Yeah, it'd just make me happy to be there.
Yeah.
And ended up going through the draft process, and I went to the Ravens.
Yeah.
So from feeling pretty good to all of a sudden I'm around Morgan Cox.
Yeah. Who we just trained with today.
Yeah, who we just trained today, and he's the best of the best.
Yeah, so for those who are listening who don't know much about the long snapping community, because it's a very small fraternity, there's only 32 of us. But Morgan Cox is, he's been an All-Pro several times.
The first All-Pro ever.
Yeah, when they started actually voting for it. He's been to the Pro Bowl, 3-4 times. He won a Super Bowl, right? I think early on.
The Ravens.
Yeah, he was a part of the Wolf Pack with Justin Tucker and Sam Cox. So that unit was like together for 10 years in Baltimore, and just like all three of them just played at an elite level for a long time. So in the snapping world, like Morgan Cox is definitely one of the guys that is just at the top, and we trained with him today, and it's incredible to see like, the ability he has at such an obscure position, but he's got the respect from everybody in the league just because he's just so consistent. So going in, you're like you said, you're like, now you get a dose of reality. Like, yeah, I got my foot in the building, but here I am competing against Morgan Cox, who probably just came off another Pro Bowl.
I think so, yeah.
And then you're around Justin Tucker, who's arguably, the best kicker in the league right now. And then Sam, who's just one of the most consistent punters. But yeah, you're competing, but like just the opportunity to be around greatness. Like, how awesome was that to get just a taste of that, you know, from the get-go?
It was honestly probably the most pivotal thing in my career was being around those guys.
Yeah.
As intimidating as it was, as soon as they saw that, like, I didn't really have an ego about me, I just wanted to learn because I had that freedom of, like, I'm not likely to beat out Morgan Cox unless I learn a lot from him and then become amazing. Yeah. And I was like, so worst case scenario, I learn more than I've ever learned in my life about this job that I've really still
in what, like 3 months, right? We're talking like
3 months of really serious, and I'd only been doing it, I guess, for 4 years. Yeah. But I was just doing it. Yeah. So I was still really in infancy of my knowledge of the position. Yeah. So like there was a lot of freedom in that of like, I'm around the best of the best. I'm not openly competing for this job because he's an established vet. Yeah. So I had a lot of freedom and just like, all right, I can just learn.
I'm here to just
and
grow.
Just get to be the best I can. And everybody in that building is really encouraging about that as well. Like, we don't care if today you sucked as a results perspective, but if you were committed to details and learning things, that's what we want. Yeah. So I really was able to lean into that process and then just pick Morgan's mind, and he's the nicest guy on earth. He can't help but help people. Yeah. So he was constantly pouring into me, and then Sam is probably the most detail-oriented punter and holder that there is. Yeah. And every punter I talk to is like, yeah, he's the guy.
Well, I remember back in the day, like when my first year was 2012 with the Colts. I remember at the time, like he was the first like guy to like do the flip flop, flip the field, like going misdirectional, aiming right but going left. Then like Hecker started doing it, and like McAfee started doing it. But I remember Sam, and he doesn't hit that like boom ball, like wow, like holy cow, that ball goes flying. But he hits that like missile to the sideline and eliminates the return. But he was like the guy that like set the tone for like directional punting. Morstead did too. Yeah. There's guys that, but I remember specifically like early in my career, like we were watching Sam's film specifically because of that misdirectional,
his
like
creativity. Yeah.
Like that ball, the ball was like returners were scared to get it because it was like a knuckler coming down and like a boomerang, and so like dude, and then be around Tucker, dude, like to see like the level of his, it was like the same for me with Vinatieri, like. Watching, like we are completely separate positions. I know nothing about kicking, but what I can learn from Vinatieri is how he operates on a daily basis and how he approaches his regimen, how he prepares, how he like just the mentality behind like his craft. Like, dude, there were so many nuggets that I just took from Vinny that, anybody can take, so I think, for you, it's just an incredible opportunity to come in, right? And that's where you and I crossed paths. I was in Jacksonville, and we had joint training camp practices together, so we met that time. But not too long after that, you end up you get released at the end, I get released from Jacksonville, and you find your way to Jacksonville. Yeah. So this is 2019.
Yes.
So you go from Baltimore, and then now you find yourself in Jacksonville as you made a team.
A rookie,
You're a rookie, right? Yeah. So talk about that transition where... was there any inclination where like, I know I'm not going to make the Ravens roster, but did you feel confident that another team may claim you?
Well, funny enough, like when I was doing my exit meetings and stuff, they all told me that to be expecting a call or something like that. But I literally I checked all that stuff out, and I was like, all right, let's go get better. Yeah. So I flew home to California, called up my guy Wiggly, set up a workout, and I didn't even think about waiver wire, any of that stuff.
The next second, you're gone.
Yeah, so like I literally worked out, went to the grocery store to pick up stuff for a family barbecue.
Flew all the way to the
I'd been
East
away,
Coast,
and I get a call. They're like, how soon can you be in Jacksonville? It's like, what? Like I'm an hour away from an airport. Yeah. So totally took me by surprise because I just kind of checked into like, you hear the tale as a long snapper, like prepare to grind for a few years before you crack in. Yeah. So I checked immediately into that mode of like, all right, it's grind time. I learned a lot. Yeah. I know where I need to go. Yeah. And so I was checking into grind mode and wasn't even paying attention. Yeah. And then I get that call and it's like, whoa, here we go. Yeah. So it was crazy just being tossed in. to game week prep.
Yeah.
I mean, like by the time
new team, new culture, new scheme, like everything, right?
And I think they had a hurricane that week that they were dealing with, so they didn't practice until Thursday.
Yeah.
So like my first practice is a
Friday.
jog through Fast Friday. And it was just kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And whiplash of just not knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun.
Oh, sure.
And being with those guys and just being a part of an NFL locker room for an entire season is just so unique.
Yeah.
Even compared to college. Yeah. Because the season's longer and everyone's in the same boat where they're not from the same place. Yeah. It's brand new. Half the guys were claimed off waivers too, or things like that. And it was just so much.
Well, I think for a young guy too, like I've been in the this business for a while now, and like just the turnover that every team like almost has, like suddenly like you get released from one team, but like now there's 31 other teams that may try to get you. So being a rookie, like you get not only do you experience firsthand getting released from a team, but now you experience the waiver wire. You get claimed within 24 hours. You're flying coast to coast several times within two days.
Immediately,
and then you just have to adapt to a whole new culture and locker room like instantly. Not to mention like the continuity with Logan Cook and Josh Lambo at the time. Like it's a whole different pack. Yeah. And you're preparing to play like an NFL game week 1, right? That's just crazy to go through as a rookie. So I would have to think that like your first year looking back was just a complete whirlwind, right?
Complete whirlwind. Everything was moving so fast that like I almost didn't have time to even absorb any memories. It was just like, dude, survive, make it. And then, I didn't even know. I feel like week 12 hit. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my gosh, we're still going.
Yeah.
Just feeling that
the season's
wear
long,
down,
man. Especially for the young guys. And I think a lot of people don't realize, like, let's just say, like, because even Division II, like, the season ends, like, what, Thanksgiving-ish?
We played playoff game the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so we're not playing no bowl games into January, that kind of stuff like D1 does. But let's just say, December 1, you're done. But that immediately you start prep. You go to training, you're preparing for pro days that happen in February, March, and April. So literally from December 1st of the past year all the way through, like the following like January, February of the NFL year. So there's that whole like, let's just call it 16 months straight of like grinding.
Trying to get better
the whole as a rookie. Time. So I think the rookie season is such a grind for mentally and physically, but I think more mentally because it's just taxing because you have to perform day in and day out, and there's no break. There's no break. Yeah. So then you have a season under your belt in Jacksonville. The next year you happen to get released. You find yourself a free agent again, but you go to Miami, right?
Yeah. So I got practice squad opportunity at Miami.
And this is the COVID year, right? This is now we're going into 2020, COVID year. So you and I kind of have a both weird like COVID year, and again, this is where you and I cross paths again. Yeah. And you're in Miami. I'm a free agent at the time, but this whole COVID thing kind of hits, and it's just a crazy whirlwind of a season. Yeah. The protocols, and no one really knows what to expect. But the Titans end up calling me to be a practice squad guy, and then like you got brought to be on the practice squad too. So like you and I both joined the Titans at this. Maybe like a week difference, but roughly the same time.
A week or two before me.
Yeah. And so we're there, and I'm there like I don't know what's going on, like because I'm like I'm in the bubble locker room away from the entire team. Bo at the time, the snapper they had, he was still testing positive, going through the whole like quarantine process. I wasn't practicing with the team. I was just doing my own thing on the field. Then you come in, and then we're like. We're kind of working together, but we're not at a distance. It was like the weirdest thing.
Yeah,
but like
after the first week, then they put me on the bubble schedule too.
Yeah,
so I was separate.
We're just kind of on this like, hey, let's just ride this thing out and see. Who knows? Yeah. But anyway, the way things shake out is, I'm playing that year, and you're on P squad, but we get to spend a lot of time together, which is really cool. And this is the coolest thing about 2020 here together with the Titans was the fact that like I had you on the sideline during the game. Yeah. And people probably think this is not even a thought, but it is so cool to have another specialist with you on the sideline during the game. And maybe was Tinker with you this year?
Tinker's with us.
Okay, so you can relate to that. So it's usually just the 3 specialists and all the practice squad guys are up in a suite. You know, maybe there's a few guys who are, you know, a no lineman or a backup quarterback who are on the sideline, you know, just in street clothes. But to have you there, for me, like, it was so cool because now we can, like, you know, share, hey, what did you see in this look? You know, how was the snap? How was this? And, like, we can just, like, I have somebody to bounce stuff off of when normally you have no one to talk to.
Yeah, you got the same set of eyes. The same person is looking for the same details.
Exactly, right? So it was so cool to have you there. And I know you really wanted to play because we're grinding. Like, that's why we're there. We're to play. So talk about 2020 for you, man. Like, how was it being on, you know, P Squad all year long? Your wife's now pregnant. You're getting ready for a baby. We're in COVID, so everything's just madness, right?
Yeah.
So talk about 2020 and kind of like, you know, where was your mindset? Like, you played the whole year, the year before. Now you're on a practice squad with your second team. You know, was your faith ever, you know, rocked at this time? Did you get discouraged a little bit? I mean, what were you kind of going through in 2020?
Yeah, I mean, getting cut anytime, I feel like you're just going to go through kind of a full cycle of emotions in a really fast or slow time for some guys.
Yeah.
So, like, I immediately was just, like, super bummed out. Then I got angry. Then I was, like, questioning what could I have done differently.
Yeah.
And then I think, honestly, having faith was the most instrumental part in that because then you're constantly harking back to, like, dude, it's not my life. I forfeit my life. So you can harken back on that, and then having so many people in your life to also point you that direction and to affirm in you, like, dude, just trust your plan. Like, you're just called to be where your feet are right now and do what you can with it. So, like, having an amazingly supportive wife who, even though she's having a brutal pregnancy, is telling you, like, you got this. Just keep putting your hands to work and doing what you can. And that support level just gives you so much freedom to trust in what you're doing and not worry about, like, oh, I got to find a job now. I got to get going. But then obviously there's that frustration of, like, trying to figure out what you can do better, learning from your mistakes, because that's all that really matters ultimately. And then dealing with that frustration every week of, like, man, I want to be playing. This is what I do. I train to play. I don't train just to train, right? And so really every week watching a game and be like, I want to freaking play, man. You feel disconnected from a team, you want to be on, but then having you around, I felt like was crucial to my 2020 year as well, because you'd already been on a journeyman kind of path and lifestyle, seen it, done it. And so you're speaking a lot of truth in my life too of, dude, just keep doing it. Like, you know?
There's a lot of truth into that because, I've been on, like, every side of the fence. You know, it's like, I've experienced a lot. And, you know, that 2019 year when I was in Jacksonville, got released, and you came in to play. Like, I sat out that entire year, but it gave me great perspective. Like, I wanted to play. Was I frustrated with Jacksonville? Yeah, but again, you talk about you learn from your mistakes. What can I do better? There's always a lesson to be taught in every situation. So it was like, I'll just take what I knew I needed to work on, go back to the lab, work on it, refine it, you know, seek help from people. But I was also home with Bree, who is, you know, we were newly engaged, planning a wedding. So I feel like, you know, God had me where I needed to be at the time. Like, I needed to be home with her. You know, maybe for you with, you know, 2020, you know, Destiny's now late into the pregnancy. Like you mentioned, she's having some struggles. I think it sounded like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like you guys felt really comfortable being here in Nashville during the pregnancy because, you know, they had great doctors, great hospitals. And you guys kind of felt like you were living out of a suitcase for the longest time. It almost felt like Nashville was like, all right, we can, like, feel like we're at home for a little bit. And that's what it kind of turned into be for a short period of time. But at the moment, it was like the perfect place for you guys to be. So do you know, looking back, you know, you had your baby boy, January 4th? I'll never forget, we brought a bunch of diapers to you in the locker room, man. Like, let's go. And I think, did we fly back from a game and, like, literally you left?
So we flew back from Houston after we literally just won the division and clinched playoffs. We landed, and I, straight from the airport, went to the hospital to trade places with my dad because at that time, only your spouse was supposed to be in there. So I traded places with my dad in the hospital, and she was being induced. So we got straight through it, and then I was back doing practices on Wednesday on my own.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd 100% agree with like that isolation of that bubble lifestyle in Tennessee ended up being hugely beneficial for my role as supporting her in her pregnancy because like I was remote for a meeting and then I go and work out and then come home.
Yes, you're really only gone for, let's just say, 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah,
where typically
10:30 in the morning instead of 2 to 3
Yeah.
in the afternoon. So like I'm able to be home and support her way more and help out and be a part of all the ultrasound appointments and really being able to invest in my future role as a dad. I felt like was crucial, and then that comfortability of being in Nashville and feeling like this is a home for us and not just a place that we're passing through was monumental and probably our stability going forward. Even as frustrating as things were football-wise, it was like, no, that was a great thing for us.
I know. It's all, hindsight's always 20/20, right? But yeah, it was and again, 2020 was also difficult because we never really got to fellowship on like a more personal level. Everything was like remote, through our iPad or, if we're in a room, we're all spread out. And I feel like the Titans community, the locker room has a really, really close, tight-knit group of believers. And we got a glimpse of it, right? We got a taste of it. But when I talked to other guys about the Titans season, like, there was such a disconnect that year because like we could never associate with anybody, like outside. It wasn't a normal setting. We were never going over to each other's houses on Mondays or Tuesday for Bible study. We weren't going to dinners together, like
sitting alone in the lunchroom.
We just couldn't socialize like we normally do in a typical locker room. So it was just a weird year, but there was so many blessings in it. So now going into 2021, you're a new dad. The Titans re-signed you, right? You signed a futures deal. So you're there. Again, Morgan Cox comes
free agency. They
bring Morgan back home because he's from the state of Tennessee. So now you're partnered back up with Morgan, and shortly after you get released, so when you get released early in 2021, what is your thought process now? Like now you got a family to provide for. Being a dad is priority. Being a husband priority. Football's not really shaking out. Like, kind of what were you thinking at this time when now you're back on the street?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully for me, I hadn't gone a day unemployed of missing the waiver wire. I'd always been picked up right away. And so I didn't really have a lot of time and space to think about things.
So you got picked up right away then?
Yeah, so I always got picked up on the waiver wire. So I never really had space and time to start questioning the path I was on, thankfully. Because you can go anywhere with more of that time. So thankfully, like, it was always 24 hours until I hit the waiver wire and then I was scooped up somewhere else. But every single time it was like, all right, I'm at peace with whatever's coming. Like, if I need to move on from football and find a new job and that was my last opportunity to wear an NFL logo, okay. Like, I'm at peace with that. So every single time it was just a moment to reflect and be at peace with where I was instead of immediately projecting myself into these infinite number of futures of, okay, well, now I got to find a job. Okay, well, what if I never play football again? What if I get a call? What if all that stuff? It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, I can't do anything about it. I just have to be where I'm at right now, see what's going to happen. But I got a call from the Rams. I was reunited with my coordinator from Jacksonville. So there's familiarity there right away. And then Johnny Hecker and Matt Gay took me in and just had such a fun time. And then obviously with a team that wins the Super Bowl, the team is amazing. And it's usually amazing in more than one way of just performance. They're usually always a special group of guys that comes together, has just an amazing fellowship, tight-knit understanding and chemistry of each other. So it was the most fun year of football. Like, regardless of wins and stuff, everyone was just
the chemistry you guys had in the locker room was just special.
So it was amazing. And then obviously the whole time you're just beside yourself like, man, I was so mad. Like,
I know.
Just a year and a half ago about not playing or getting cut.
But not only that, like, God brought you back home too. It wasn't like you won somewhere else. Like, you won in your backyard.
Exactly.
Which makes it even more special, right? So, I mean, talk about that, like, going into, okay, you guys kind of had a weird like year.
We had a really weird December, I think, is what it was. Where we didn't win.
I just remember there was that funky lull that you guys had where like you lost like 3 or 4 in a row, or just nothing was clicking. When was it like? When did it kind of dawn on you, or in the locker room? Did you ever feel like the locker room lost any confidence, or did you feel like, hey, we're the dogs, we're the top dog, we're the ones to beat? Did you feel like that confidence level? Because I know the personalities you have in that locker room. I mean, you have Ramsey,
Studs.
Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
You know, then you bring OBJ in and Von Miller and just guys who have this pedigree of like success. You know, and you have a just super confident head coach in McVay. I mean, talk about the season. When was it, or in your mind, when did you think that like, all right, we're gonna go make a run and we're gonna win this thing?
Well, I think the fact that it was a home opportunity for a Super Bowl, and then getting Stafford and seeing what he's capable of, immediately kind of puts that narrative in your head of like, we've got a really good team, and it's a home Super Bowl. Like, you don't get that chance often. So I think from training camp alone and seeing the chemistry develop as quickly as it did, there was definitely a confidence and stability in what we were capable of. And then even in those games where things weren't going well, I mean, like, I snapped one off the PP and they scored a touchdown in Indy. But in all those moments of adversity, our team stayed so level.
There was no high or low.
No high or low setting and bickering even. It was like, all right, what do we got to do to be better? How do we fix this? How do we correct it? How do we
And where does that come from? Who's the guy in that locker room that like sets that tone?
It's so hard to put a pin on it, but it's just everything the Rams do is...
I mean, does it come from McVay? I mean,
I think it comes from everyone in the top of the organization down. Of they preach all the time that we win with our people and that we invest in who people are, and it's obvious everywhere you're at in that building. Like, people are having real conversation with all levels. Like, you're talking to the video guys, you're talking strength, trainer, all of it is having dialogue, investing in each other. And so I think
feels
everyone,
like a family,
everyone feels comfortable and confident with where they're at. And that's really rare in this type of business. To where everyone feels comfortable.
Well, you've been now in like 4 or 5 different locker rooms, like in a short period of time, and like it is pretty crazy. Like, people think like an NFL, like, oh my gosh, like every organization's got to be the greatest thing. It's like, no, like there's maybe a handful of teams in the league that are really like from top down, like just elite. You know, and then there's other organizations where, you know, there's just like these areas that just are completely disconnected, you know, and it's a business. It's not like you don't feel like you're part of a team, and they don't care about the turnover. They just want to, you know, put butts in the seats and sell merchandise and game day tickets, and it's the culture, right? Not every team has a culture, you know, and so, I mean, for the Rams, I mean, they're kind of a new. I mean, they're not new to LA, but when I think of the Rams, I don't think they're not the team that comes to mind that like has this prestigious culture like the Patriots or the Packers or, you know, the Bears. But it sounds like what they got going here has set the tone for like, you know, the next decade.
The foundation is 100% set for future success in the way they approach everything. So I would 100% agree with that. And anytime you get a new guy that comes in, they're like, wow. Like, people seem like they're enjoying themselves, having a lot of fun.
And that's how I felt with the Chargers. Like, it was a new head coach, a new staff, you know, new fresh faces, and like, you know, it's just like, I just had fun, you know, and it was, you know, that wasn't my same experience in Jacksonville. You know, I loved my time in Jacksonville was special. There was many great moments that I had there, but the expectation to perform at a high level necessarily wasn't always there, you know, and, you know, being in Indy, like the expectation was high, you know, and so it's like when you go to these different, you know, organizations, you kind of like, you're like, wow, this is what it's like here, and it's weird, you know, but having fun is important, and it seems like you guys had a lot of fun, and it obviously, you guys made that run late in the year, and like beat the Niners, who did you guys beat in the playoffs?
Tampa, the Niners, the Cardinals. We had 2 division games, and then Tampa Bay, and then going to the Super Bowl in your home stadium. It was just wild.
So when you guys beat the Niners to go to the
Super Bowl, the NFC Championship.
What was it? I mean, being a Southern California guy, like, I mean, what was that week? Because you kind of had you have that 2 weeks in between the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl. Like, what was that 2 weeks like? You know, being the hometown hero, dude. Like, what was it like?
It was crazy. I mean, you're just getting reached out to by all these people that you played Little League with, and you haven't really thought about this whole history, and I didn't really give too much credit to it because I'm a long snapper, I'm invisible.
Yeah.
I was never that dude on any team I was on. Like I was always good in Little League and high school, but I was never like that dude's special. He's going places. So like I always kind of discounted that idea.
Yeah.
But then getting all those messages and people reaching out was super humbling, and just realizing an impact that you've made in somebody's life, or just the fact that they've paid attention and remembered was really cool.
Yeah.
So it
but
was,
also I know Azusa doesn't have football anymore.
Yeah.
And Western Washington doesn't have football anymore. So that thing for me stings, and I'm sure it does for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But like for you to be on that platform, and when someone goes down, the roster of the LA Rams, like Azusa Pacific is on there.
Yeah.
Like you are representing that university, whether it's a football program or not. And I always thought that was really, even though I'm bitter about Western not having football, because I would still love to go back and reminisce and stay connected with the university or take my kids to a game.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty cool to like, you represent that school.
Something very unique.
Yeah, because I had some of the best times of my life in Bellingham at Western, and I'm sure you could relate with Azusa.
Mm-hmm.
So, was that pretty? Did you do anything? Did Azusa acknowledge you at all for
they
Super
did,
Bowl and stuff?
and they canceled football the year before, so they were a little bit hesitant to embrace that side because it
was a tough subject.
It's a really tough subject, and it still is, honestly.
Yeah.
And because it's football is something people hold really dearly to and are very passionate about, so it's a touchy subject still. But midway through the year, we did a game where a bunch of alumni came out.
Oh, cool.
And got to watch a game, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
And, having contacts with all the coaches still is incredible.
Yeah.
And being able to share it, like I had my coach, Gabe Heigard, came to the Super Bowl and be able to share it with him and be like, dude, you were foundational in who I am, how my career has gone, and so you're going to the Super Bowl. Like, being able to tell family members that they were going was one of the most fun things that I've ever experienced in my life.
Yeah, so you guys obviously win, close game. What is it like? And it may be a blur to you. I don't know. Like, some games are like you just don't remember. Like, you kind of black out in the moment. But was there ever a moment like you got your son on this field? Did Destiny and Micah come down on the field after the game?
They didn't get to.
They didn't get to?
Yeah, she did.
Okay.
But I didn't get you didn't get to have a bunch of people down there.
But like having that confetti coming down, like, dude, what is that? I mean, was it everything that you could imagine or more, or what was it like?
I'd say it was almost like an overload.
Yeah.
Because getting to the Super Bowl, winning the NFC Championship, and that confetti coming down, there's a huge rush because you're like, dude, we're going to the Super Bowl. And there's still work to be done.
Yeah.
And then when you win it, there's like that levelness of like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, we did that.
Just did that.
That is really crazy.
Yeah.
So it was like almost too much to take in.
Yeah.
And it was like a marination process of like slowly things hitting.
Yeah.
And when you talk to somebody else and they're like, oh, you play for the Rams?
Yeah.
You won a Super Bowl, dude.
Yeah,
and they get super excited.
Yeah.
So it's been a really slow absorption of all the information, but I really try to take everything as it was in the moment, like the parade, the game itself, not making it bigger than what it was. And just all the prep and just embracing it.
I mean, talking about like, you brought it up about not making the game bigger than it was. Do you think it definitely helped the team, like being in SoFi?
100%. Yeah.
I mean, you didn't have to leave.
Yeah.
You got to prep. Did you guys just practice all week
practiced
at
the
home?
same way we would have.
You didn't have to go anywhere else, like offside, just for the sake of it being Super Bowl?
Yeah, we did one practice in the Rose Bowl.
Okay.
Because wind at our facility, so to get actual reps of throwing a football.
Yeah.
We went down to the Rose Bowl, but it was like, it wasn't extra media or fans there.
Yeah.
So it was nothing out of the ordinary in that respect. But yeah, being able to be in our same exact routine was probably...
Sleeping, were you at home too?
We were at home.
Yeah.
So everything was the same.
Yeah.
and we stayed in the same hotel,
Yeah.
all of it.
So just like
So,
never skip
that's
the
such
beat.
a sneaky advantage.
Oh, for
that
sure.
I think a lot of people would really discredit.
Yeah.
Of like, that's not that big a deal.
And did you guys actually have your home locker room too, even though you
We
guys were
did.
the away team?
Yeah, so we got our home locker room, home sideline.
Yeah.
But then all of the media and stuff in the stadium treated us like we were an away team.
Yeah.
So that part was almost a little weird.
Yeah,
It was like, this is our place, but it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
But yeah, just having the familiarity of like how to get to the field from the locker room, like those little things that you don't think about and kind of take for granted. Like it's comforting to know, like, you know, the weather condition, the field condition. Like you've already played 10 games in there. Like you already, you know, and you're playing at home. I think that's so cool, man. And like, it was incredible to watch, you know. And I know, like, being in LA, like the LA market was just like so thirsty and hungry for like an LA team to win, right? It's like, who's gonna do it first, the Rams or the Chargers, you know? And like both teams had good years, and I think both teams are gonna continue to be
contenders,
really good. But to finally like just like validate an LA team is huge for just the fan base. You know, 'cause it's a funky fan base. It's like
it's extremely competitive.
It is
environment.
It's like you have all these teams competing for like the attention of like one like specific area. It's like you know, who do you cheer for? The Clippers or the Lakers? The Angels or the Dodgers? The Chargers or the Rams? You know, like, oh no, but the Raiders were here. Oh no, but you know, like you fight over that kind of stuff,
and then
right?
beyond that, it's like people are moving there from other places.
Exactly.
And then it's like, oh, we can go to the beach, any concert, Disneyland, like
So it's a fickle like fan base kind of environment, because also, not to mention, like, people travel well to games too.
Yeah.
So like you may be the home team,
so everyone wants to go,
but the Raiders travel heavy, or the Niners travel just down from the Bay Area, or the Seahawks, you know, because people want to come to LA. So like,
and see a new stadium.
Exactly,
so there's
right?
so much marketing.
So when we played the Cowboys, like, and the Raiders, but it was like, dude, there's like way more Cowboy fans here than Charger fans.
Which
it was
feels
loud.
way weirder than playing an actual away game.
Yeah.
You're like, this is supposed to be our stadium.
I know, right? But man, like, I'm so incredibly proud of you and just the adversity that you've overcome in the past 3 or 4 years. You know, as a fellow long snapper, as, you know, we have more of a personal level outside of football. You know, our wives and kids have spent a little bit of time together when we're here. Like I said, you left us for South Carolina, so we're not bitter, but we hope you make your way back here at some point. But I know you guys love it out there. But just like reflecting on the past few years, the ups and downs of your career so far, obviously you're coming off the highest of the high, winning the Super Bowl. I mean, what has God revealed in the process, in the moment of your career so far? And like, you know, maybe he just completely just solidified like what you always believed, you know, whether it's just always, you know, staying faithful in the process and you know, not getting too high, not getting too low, you know, just kind of share like what has God revealed in the past few years, man.
Yeah. I mean, all through college and the ups and downs that I had there I tried to be a physics major, baseball player, football player, ended up having to give up baseball.
Yeah.
Ended up crashing and burning in physics my 3rd year and failing, being ineligible for football. So all these things that have been tattering at my earthly identity constantly, and things that I was really pouring a lot into of like image protection, right? Being an oldest in my family, of trying to make sure that I was like Superman to them, of like, oh, if he puts his mind to something, he's doing it, he's thriving, he's strong. So, and then that being constantly just poked and prodded and ripped away to know and rely on your true identity is like, all that stuff is just things that I happen to be doing. That's just where God's placed me. But ultimately it's like, I'm a follower of Jesus and I'm trying to replicate his life patterns. Like before his ministry, he was a carpenter. So like, that was just the thing he did, but he was still Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, I've been constantly being poked and ripped away of all these things that I'm clinging to and trying to pull myself into this world with and to validate myself on. And it's like, no, you're a Jesus follower who's playing football and gets to be in an NFL locker room right now. And so that's what you're given right now, which is an immense amount of, you know, privilege and access to things, which also means there's going to be a lot required of you
to do.
And so I've just been reading a lot of I read a lot of books of, heroes of the faith. Like right now I'm reading about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who is a theologian in the rise of Nazi Germany, and reading about his journey and his inner reflections on his role and what he can do, how he's supposed to respond to the world around him, has been super humbling, because it's like, all right, I'm playing a game. Like, if I don't need to stake my identity in that at all.
Yeah.
So it's been just kind of a rounding out process of stripping out the emphasis on me and who I am.
Yeah.
And it's like, where's God been in my story?
Yeah.
He's been paramount in everything. His providence has been so impactful and has been the entire story, right? So it's just been a constant reflecting on, all right, it's gotten me this far. I'm always where I'm supposed to be, even though it's not where I want to be all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
But every time I've embraced it, I get so much good out of it.
That's so good, man. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Now that you're a dad, you're a husband, how did becoming a dad like kind of change your daily approach? And like, I know for me, I feel like I miss the mark constantly, because football does take a lot of time and energy away from the family. And our wives are like superheroes behind the scenes, dealing with the kids, dealing with like adjusting to our lifestyle and our schedules,
the most
traveling
fluid schedule ever.
Like they don't get the stability, but it's almost like I told Bree this when I had her on here, like she's the glue that keeps like the mess together all the time.
Yeah.
But they don't get the acknowledgement that they
we're
so
the face
deserve.
of the operation, turning in the group project.
Yeah, exactly. But she's the one that gives the
that grinded out the whole thing. Yeah.
So, I mean, how have you juggled just now being a dad and moving? I mean, bouncing around. I mean, what has that just been like for you? Because I know for me, like, being a dad has obviously given me, a greater purpose, and it's one of the greatest blessings that we can ever, be called to do. But it's also like when I left work, right? We play a kids game for a living. When we leave work, I went home with a smile, because now I get to see my baby girl. Like, whereas before, when I was single or not married, like, I always brought work home. Even when Bree and I were dating or engaged, and sometimes early in our marriage, I brought work home with me. Like my frustrations from practice home, a game home. But like, I feel like, with parenthood now, I can it's a little easier for me to leave work at work and be more attentive at home. And again, I'm not like that all the time. There's times when I bring home stress. But have you kind of felt the same things a little bit along those lines, where now you're excited to go home because now like I get to be daddy, and having him at the games, like that was so cool for me to have True at the games, seeing, even though they probably won't remember it. Yeah. I always thought it was so cool that teammates had their kids there. So can you share a little bit about that and just kind of like being a new dad?
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, it's the coolest thing ever. Yeah. It's so rewarding just to be a part of their life. Yeah. And so like I'm always thinking about like, what's this contributing to his life? How am I leading him? How am I, just participating in what he's doing, even though he's tiny, he's 1.5 years old. Yeah. But it's just like, how am I contributing? What am I doing? What am I feeding into him? So I'm always just doing like performance reviews of myself. It's what am I showing him? Because all he does is watch people, right? Yeah. So it's like, what am I showing him every day? And so the most rewarding thing I know that I give him is just presence. Yeah. Right? Yeah. It's like throwing the phone over the shoulder and be like, all right, I'm here now. Yeah. So, and I just have so much fun with that job, and like being able to watch him learn about the world and explore it on his own, and to just be that strong, stable presence for him. That's great. And then obviously we're in parenting light mode. We're just ensuring they stay alive at this point. We don't really have to contribute too much logically and debate them and try to really shepherd them. Yeah. So right now it's like I'm just trying to enjoy the fun stage of this, because I just have to be there. Yeah. And it's doing amazing things.
Seeing that, just like the constant growth that occurs like every month, like just, it's crazy, man. That's so cool, man. And I'm, our kids are a few months apart, but man, we're kind of on that same trajectory path together as dads, right? We're going through the same like ebbs and flows of, sleep regressions and teething and like all this crazy stuff. But it couldn't be better. Like, I complain all the time, but like it's also the coolest thing ever,
Yeah.
right? It's like, oh, I don't have the freedom to do this, that, or the other, but like also being the dad is the coolest thing ever. So
I feel like it's taught me so much more about like daily disciplines in my
Oh,
life.
yeah.
Because now it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I want time for myself. All right, well, then you better wake up at 5 a.m.
Exactly, right?
to
Yeah.
make your coffee and
Because
sit.
I know when True's gonna be up at 6:30, 7 o'clock. So if I want to do any reading or anything by myself, I got to get up at 5:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So it's or just doing the things extra that can help like the family dynamic with our spouses.
Yeah.
Helping them. But yeah, I really appreciate you kind of sharing your testimony and story with us, man. Again, so super proud of you, man. Just keep leading in that locker room, man. That's my encouragement for you because you are a disciple on that team. I know Johnny Hecker's no longer there, and he was, a pivotal guy in that locker room. And I know that you'll rise up as, one of those guys that just continues to be bold in their faith in that locker room and for our league too, not just in the locker room. And just being, outpouring your faith, and sharing that with others is incredible. And that's what we're called to do. And I see that in you all the time. So I appreciate you doing that. And I love you, man. And I hope you have another great year in LA. We're going to miss you out here, but so glad we got to train for a little bit here in Nashville, man. And hope we continue to do that. So again, just love you, man. And thank you so much for everything. And thank you for coming on the pod and sharing your testimony, man.
Dude, I appreciate you. I had to. I was just got to repay all the stuff you've poured into me.
Oh,
and
man.
So if I can help out any way.
I learned a lot from you too, man. Believe it or not. So I thank you so much for the time, man. Love you, brother.
Thank you,
I hope you guys stay tuned for another Stay Ready podcast next time. Thank you for tuning in to Stay Ready, the podcast. If you like today's episode, please comment below, like, and subscribe to our channel. I appreciate you all. We'll see you next time, and stay ready.